Alexis Ware was born on August 19, 1988. By 29, she lived in Greenville, South Carolina, where she was raising a daughter and a son, working as a sought-after hairstylist with clients willing to cross state lines for her chair, and building the kind of social presence she hoped would carry her to Atlanta. Boutique racks already bought, inventory already boxed. With that visibility came the downside, men who wouldn't let up. She called them the creeps. Late January 2022, something in her world felt off. On Friday, the 28th, she packed the kids into her red Honda and drove the 80 miles to her mother Alberta's for the weekend. They cooked, talked, did the usual, but Alberta kept noticing a change. Alexis distracted, jumpy, taking calls that rattled her. When pressed, Alexis brushed it away, called one caller the devil, and, almost like it slipped out, said she didn't think she'd live to see 30. Sunday, January 30th, Alexis headed back to Greenville. Around 3:30 p.m., Alberta FaceTimed her to make sure they made it home. Alexis answered from bed, said she was exhausted, was going to nap, and would call later. Earlier that day, she'd stopped by a neighbor's door, someone she barely knew, talking fast, jumping between thoughts, the way people do when their nerves are frayed. It's hard to know how much to read into that moment, but it adds texture to a restless weekend. That evening, she arranged to meet her ex, TJ Patterson, at the 7-Eleven off Highway 29 in Anderson to hand off the children, something they'd done before. She'd mentioned she was low on gas. Around 7:30 p.m., the store's cameras show her there. The kids climb into TJ's car. Both vehicles pull out. Part of the view is blocked by a tractor-trailer, but on the clear angles there's no struggle, no obvious alarm. At a red light just beyond the lot, TJ would later say Alexis was on her phone, then she suddenly swung around him and took off fast in another direction. Calls to her phone went unanswered. He reached out to Alberta. Alberta hadn't even known they were meeting that night. Panic set in. From there, the trail fractures into hard facts and scattered pieces. Around 8:15 p.m., her phone pings near Abbeville, roughly 30 miles away. Highway cameras catch her Honda entering Augusta, Georgia, then later heading back north towards South Carolina. Investigators also say her car surfaces at an Anderson apartment complex a couple of times that night, without publicly stating who was behind the wheel. Threaded through the weekend is one more odd detail. While staying with her mom, Alexis bought a lot of lottery tickets, hundreds of dollars worth from multiple stores, and booked an appointment at the Georgia lottery office for Monday. She never showed, and as far as anyone said publicly, those tickets weren't winners. To people who knew her, that burst of spending felt out of character. 3 days after she was last seen, Wednesday, February 2nd, a driver on a rural cut-through in McCormick County spotted a red car tucked off a wood line near active logging and called it in. It was Alexis's 2019 Honda Accord, heavy with mud. Inside were her phone, her purse and ID, a bag of clothing, and those lottery tickets. On the ground beside her car lay the black bonnet she'd been wearing at 7-Eleven. Authorities recovered prints but haven't said whose. Ground teams, air support, canines, volunteers, searches pushed through the bush and cut over timber. Nothing. The Honda ends up mud-caked off a rural spur, and inside are the things most people don't part with: phone, wallet, a change of clothes. That combination reads less like someone quietly walking away and more like a hurried stop that went sideways. Maybe the car bogged down. Maybe it ran low on gas. Maybe someone forced a stop away from cameras. There's no broken glass or obvious forced entry in what's been shared. Whether it was one person or more, known or unknown, we don't have that answer. What we do have is a car left where it shouldn't be, essentials abandoned inside, and a family waiting for the piece that makes most details click. Detectives pulled the threads they had. Did she have any reason to be in McCormick County? Her family said no. Did she know someone at that Anderson apartment complex? Unknown. Who, if anyone, was in the Honda after the gas station handoff? In the months that followed, her family kept pushing. Around a year into the investigation, law enforcement publicly said TJ wasn't a suspect. It's easy to see why she might break formation at that light. In the days before she vanished, she talked about a black truck tailing her, and a caller she called the devil. She'd just separated from her kids and planned to follow their dad to his mother's house. Then she swung around him and took off. One plausible read is instinct. She put distance between herself and the kids because she sensed a threat. Another is that a call or a sighting, something she recognized, changed her plan in seconds. By night's end, her Honda had racked up miles into Augusta and back, then turned up mud-caked on a cut-through with her essentials inside. There's also a harder possibility that the sequence at the light didn't happen exactly as described, or that someone else was driving by the time the Honda sped off. The gas station angles are partly blocked. Online, you'll see claims about ankle monitors, adult pages, affairs, and doorbell clips. Unless they're in filings or law enforcement releases, they're just that, claims. If you have information about Alexis Ware, call Henderson County Sheriff's Office at 864-260-4405. Brooke Leigh Henson was born on April 17, 1979. At 20, she was living with her parents, Martin and Kathy, on Henderson Drive in Travelers Rest. On the night of July 3, 1999, she had friends over. Around 2 a.m., her parents got home from a concert in Charlotte and found her on the porch. She told them she'd argued with her boyfriend, Ricky Sean Shirley, and said she was going to walk to Willis's at Hawkins Road and Poinsett Highway for cigarettes, just a couple of blocks away. She stepped off the porch around 2:30 a.m. and headed down Henderson Drive. Before she left, she wrote a note to Sean, "Follow me if you care." For context, stores in Travelers Rest didn't sell cigarettes after midnight in 1999, so that plan never made much sense. The house had been busy that night. Whether you call it a party or just a packed get-together, a lot of people saw Brooke. They drank, ate, watched TV, and some later admitted there was drug use. Brooke's aunt, Christy Metcalf, remembered dropping by around 1 or 2 a.m. Brooke was on the porch. Sean was inside, and the last guests were heading out. After sunrise, Brooke still wasn't home. Sean was asleep. Kathy found a note in Brooke's room, "I'm gone walking, follow me if you care," and showed it to Sean, who said he'd never seen it before. Around 9 a.m., a white pickup pulled up after a call from someone named Greg, and Sean left in that truck. It took some coaxing for the family to call police. When they did, hours had already passed. Because Brooke was 20 and had walked out on her own, she was initially treated like a runaway, and a real area search didn't happen for 2 to 3 weeks. Those searches were small, nothing like the big grids people picture from TV. There were other messy pieces. The family says a Travelers Rest police officer, Kevin Elder, once entered the house while the Hensons were away without a warrant and was later reprimanded when they threatened legal action. By the end of '99, Chief Harold Perry and Lieutenant Arlene Allen resigned for personal reasons. A rumored hotel security tape allegedly showing Brooke entering but not leaving was said to exist. A later chief, Tim Christie, dismissed it and said the tape had been returned to the hotel. Officers collected hundreds of pages of tips, but many were second or third hand and went nowhere. In 2003, a local paper even published 2 psychic readings that described a heavy-set bearded man, a Bar 9 reference, a bandana, and water near a bank north of Jimmy's house, plus the word Crabtree. Days after the second reading ran, someone tried to burn the paper's office. That arson is still unsolved. 2 weeks later, Sean's vehicle was stolen and pushed off the Hartcutt Road Bridge in Marietta. Years after Brooke vanished, an unbelievable thread surfaced in New York City, a woman using Brooke's identity. Same birth date, same social security number, enrolled at Columbia University's School of General Studies. For 2 years, she took criminology and psychology, ran up more than $100,000 in student loans, even sat for the SAT, and bragged about being a European chess champion. In June 2006, a prospective employer Googled the name and realized Brooke Henson was a missing person. Confronted, the student claimed she was Brooke and had left home by choice. Investigators set up a DNA test. She slipped away instead, with her cat and a few toiletries. Her real name was Esther Elizabeth Reed. This was her pattern: steal identities, enroll in good schools. Despite transcripts under other people's names, she hadn't finished high school. She passed the GED and kept moving. After 2.5 years on the run, she was arrested in Chicago in February 2008, pled guilty to fraud and identity theft that August, and in February 2009 got 4 years in federal prison. Reed said she never meant to hurt anyone. Authorities concluded she wasn't tied to Brooke's disappearance. Back in Traveler's Rest, Brooke's people never stopped pressing. She was outdoorsy, happiest on a trail. She'd left school in the 10th grade and was still figuring life out. Walking away forever didn't fit. The relationship with Sean had been volatile, and when Brooke vanished, he and some of his friends wouldn't cooperate with investigators. He had priors for drugs and assaults. He was treated as a person of interest, never charged, never publicly named as a suspect, and plenty of people around Brooke had their own criminal issues. Over time, police moved off the runaway idea and now suspect foul play. Ricky, Sean, Shirley died in September 2019. His death was investigated. There were no obvious signs of foul play, and later reports noted he was found at his mother's house. Around that time, Chief Ben Ford said he believed Brooke didn't live through that night and that multiple people know more than they've said. In April 2025, a task force, Travelers Rest Police Department, Malden Police Department, and the Greenville County Sheriff's Office formed to push the case forward. Detectives interviewed several people and developed new leads. In early May, they searched areas that hadn't been accessible before. During the May 16, 2025 River Falls search, cadaver dogs alerted, forensics were called in, and police towed a car from the property back to Travelers Rest Police Department for processing. Officials didn't say whose car it was or how, if at all, it might be tied to Brooke. Later that day, they said the dig had uncovered a pet grave, not human remains. Then came a major move, a search warrant at a nearby 6-acre property in the River Falls area. The homeowner, described as a friend of Brooke's, was taken into custody on unrelated charges and questioned. Officials didn't label him a person of interest. Chief Ford also noted that Brooke sometimes stayed with friends for a night or two and would usually call her mom, context for the early assumptions back then. He maintains officers did what they could at the time. There's a reward for accurate, direct information that leads to Brooke's location or resolves this case. If you know anything about that walk down Henderson Drive or what followed, please come forward. You can submit tips by texting CRIMES with the keyword 23CRIME or contact Travelers Rest Police at 864-834-9029. Jana Stines Manasco was born on March 25, 1992. At 31, she was living in Union County, South Carolina. She was a mother of one and described as funny, outgoing, and devoted to her son. On August 19, 2023, Jana was last seen in the Monarch Mill area near Union. She has not been seen since. She loved animals and softball. A former athlete, she suffered a sports injury that led to an opioid addiction. In the months before she disappeared, several court matters occurred. A divorce was filed in late February 2023. In March, she pled to a prescription charge with time served. In early June, the divorce was finalized. In mid-July, she received a larceny verdict with a fine or 30 days. On August 1st, she was arrested for possession, served 17 days, and was released in mid-August. Days later, she was gone. Her last known location was Monarch Mill, near large wooded areas that run into the Enory district of Sumter National Forest. The terrain is rugged with little surveillance. Searches there are slow and difficult, and leads have been limited. Investigators say they followed up on interviews and tips, and that some persons of interest took polygraphs. Jana's father, Jimmy Stines, has kept the case in the public eye and has offered a reward for information leading to her location. Interestingly, her case was not listed in NamUs, though the sheriff's office has said it was entered into NCIC in September 2023. Because many investigators and coroners use NamUs to compare unidentified remains with missing persons, a live NamUs entry is important. Status can change. According to Jana's father, a cadaver dog team from Richland County was allowed to search only briefly, and the handler was not permitted to deploy the dog off-leash, even though the dog is trained to work that way. He says the search ended early and believes outside assistance should be invited. He has also alleged inconsistencies in conversations with the sheriff. The family further states that some individuals declined polygraphs and that at least one person failed one. These are the family's assertions and have not been independently verified. If you saw Jana around August 19, 2023, or know where she went or who she was with, call the Union County Sheriff's Office at 864-429-1612 or Crime Stoppers at 864-427-0800. You can also share a tip at janastines.online. Even a small detail could help. This next note is not a claim about Jana's case, but a brief explanation of the current fentanyl crisis. The U.S. overdose pattern moved from prescription pain pills to heroin and then to illicit fentanyl made in illegal labs. In recent years, poppy fields in key regions were banned or destroyed. Afghanistan's fell by about 95% in 2023, so heroin became scarcer and often weaker, and traffickers leaned even more on fentanyl. After China tightened controls in 2019, more precursor chemicals were shipped instead of finished product, and most illicit fentanyl for the U.S. has been produced in Mexico. The result is the same: cheap, very potent fentanyl across the market. Counterfeit pills are being pressed to look exactly like real medications, same color, same stamp, and can contain a lethal dose. If a pill did not come from a pharmacy in your name, assume it is fake. One pill can kill. Naloxone, Narcan, can reverse an opioid overdose, including fentanyl. It's available over the counter at most pharmacies, and many health departments provide it for free. It's a simple nasal spray. Call 911, give naloxone right away if you suspect an overdose, and give a second dose after a couple of minutes if there is no response. It will not harm someone if opioids are not involved. If you or someone you love is around opioids, prescribed or not, keep naloxone on hand and make sure others know where it is. Lisa Marie Shuttleworth was born on June 25, 1969. She was the fun one, always smiling, always dancing, always surrounded by friends. She graduated from Midland Valley High, went to work right away, and started a family just as fast. It wasn't easy. Her marriage to Jack Shuttleworth was volatile and, by accounts from those close to her, violent. She left that behind. By 34, she was doing what determined single moms do in Aiken County, South Carolina, holding the pieces together for 2 kids, one plan, one favor, one ride at a time. Lisa had 2 children, Christina and Ryan. Christina often stayed with their grandparents, dotingly spoiled, as families do, and that meant it was usually just Lisa and 9-year-old Ryan at home. He remembers her as loving, practical, and quietly fierce about her kids. Mornings were simple: up, breakfast, school. Wednesday, September 3, 2003, felt ordinary to Ryan. School, bus, home. He expected his mom to pick him up that afternoon. When she didn't, he walked to the house and found the door locked. He waited with a friend until one of Lisa's friends came by looking for her and drove him to his grandparents. Records differ on whether this missed pickup happened on September 3rd or the following day. The upcoming timeline follows the morning of September 4th as the last confirmed contact. Early Thursday, September 4th, around 7 a.m., Lisa spoke with her daughter by phone. Nothing sounded off. Christina planned to ride home with friends after school. About an hour later, someone who knew Lisa saw her at the pit stop on Pine Log Road, near Storm Branch, sitting in a blue-green 1994 Pontiac Grand Am she'd borrowed from family friend Neil Durden. Lisa appeared to be reading, calm, unhurried in the morning light. At 10 a.m., Lisa phoned a friend and said she was expecting a guest. After that, silence. No answers, no callbacks. That afternoon, Lisa didn't pick up her son. By early evening, Christina headed to the family home, often described by the family as on Miller Street in Beach Island, now Fork Bend Street. The Pontiac sat in the drive. The doors were locked. Inside, little things felt wrong. Tea had been on the stove. The pot was moved off the burner with a napkin draped over the handle, like she'd stepped away for a moment and meant to come right back. Her purse was missing, but her driver's license and social security card were still there. It didn't fit, not with a mom who'd promised to grab school supplies and pick up her boy. Ryan remembers waiting for hours that day, sun dropping, porch quiet, until he was taken to his grandparents', where the reality finally landed. No one knew where his mother was. The family says they tried to report Lisa missing that night, but were told to wait. The official report went in on September 5th with the Aiken County Sheriff's Office. Deputies canvassed, checked for witnesses, and pulled the gas station footage from that morning. The borrowed Grand Am was later found at Lisa's home. On paper, the original missing person report didn't flag clear indicators of foul play. In practice, nearly everyone close to Lisa considered the circumstances suspicious. The family has long voiced frustration that the house wasn't locked down quickly. Too many people in and out, fingerprints taken late. With few updates from investigators, Ryan started doing his own outreach, talking to people who might never open the door to a deputy, but would talk to her son. Loved ones say Lisa had been dealing with threats from more than one direction. They recall her ex-husband warning her about filing for child support. They also believe Lisa had learned she was pregnant and had told her boyfriend. According to the family, he didn't want the baby and once threatened her with a gun. No one has been publicly named a suspect by law enforcement. Relatives say at least one person close to Lisa failed a polygraph and hired an attorney. Years later, the family heard that a truck tied to someone in Lisa's circle was located in North Georgia and tested with luminol, lighting up heavily. Too degraded, they were told, to type the DNA. These pieces are family recollections and secondhand reports, not confirmed findings. But they're the threads her children and closest friends still pull. Years have passed. Christina and Ryan grew up with their maternal grandparents, holding tight to quick flashes of memory, trips to the ocean with family friends, moms cheering at ball fields, weeknight dinners where Lisa turned chicken nuggets into little smiles on a plate. Ordinary life. That's what was stolen. If you know anything about what happened around Miller, Fork Bend Street that Thursday morning, who Lisa might have been expecting, where that Grand Am traveled after the pit stop, or any detail that never made it into the file, contact the Aiken County Sheriff's Office or your local tip line. Anonymous tips are okay. Small details matter. In a case built on silence, one voice can move everything. On May 24, 1995, a highway worker spotted a woman's body in a drainage ditch off Cotton Hall Road near Yamasee, South Carolina. She'd been strangled elsewhere and left with nothing to name her. No purse, no jewelry, just a pair of Leonisa underwear, a brand mostly sold in Latin America at the time. For 27 years, she was Beaufort County 1995 Jane Doe. Investigators worked with what the mid-90s could offer. They documented surgical scars, entered every detail into NCIC, built a DNA profile for CODIS, and chased teletype lookalikes. Interpol pushed an international notice. Univision told her story in 2011. Tips arrived, some heartfelt, some long shots, but each one faded. The file grew thick and quiet. In 2007, biogeographical testing pointed toward Hispanic ancestry, which lined up with the Leonisa clue. The sheriff's office kept at it. A volunteer cold case team reread reports, reboxed evidence, and resubmitted items as lab science improved. The years moved, but the case never truly stopped. The turn came in 2020 when Beaufort County sent her DNA to Parabon for forensic genealogy. Distant matches sketched the outlines of a family tree. In October 2022, a possible son agreed to upload his DNA to GEDmatch. Minutes later, the screen showed a parent-child match. 2 months after that, in December 2022, the sheriff's office finally said her name, Maria Telles-Gonzalez. She was 36, a wife, and a mother of 3 from Kissimmee, Florida. She'd never been reported missing. For years, her children believed she'd left. With a name came a sharper, last-known timeline. Days before she vanished, Maria flew home from Puerto Rico. The next morning, her kids went to school like always. When they came back, their mother and the suitcase she'd brought home were gone. Her car was still in the driveway. Investigators believe she was killed in Florida and driven north to South Carolina. An autopsy confirmed homicide by strangulation and estimated she'd been dead roughly a day, perhaps a bit more, before discovery. Detectives located and interviewed a close friend, Patricia. From that conversation emerged a man known only as Carlos, described as a male friend, possibly a boyfriend, who'd been seeing Maria for at least a few months. He's believed to be Hispanic, about 5'8" to 5'10", fluent in Spanish and very good English, and living in the Orlando, Kissimmee area in 1995. Authorities have released photos from that year and age-progressed images. Finding him matters. He may hold the missing pieces of Maria's last day. This case has had steady hands from the start. Cold case investigator Bob Bromage has carried it for decades, now volunteering his time to keep it moving. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement is working alongside the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. If you knew Maria, knew Carlos, if you saw or heard anything, noticed a sudden disappearance, or rushed trip north, please call investigator Bob Bromage at 843-816-8013 or email him at robertb@bcgov.net. Even a small memory can unlock a stalled lead.